The Deasons may or may not have bought a few of my kids' steers at the auction. Thank you, Dougie and Jacki. Jacki, thank you for that beautiful introduction. What a joy to be here with all of you, especially the young ladies here at the Business Academy. I'm not going to take too much time because what's going to be much more exciting than listening to me is the panel that's coming and led by my sister, Mercedes Schlapp, whom you all will love hearing from her. We had an incredible time and partnership in the last West Wing, and it was just a joy. I don't know where Mercedes is. She's got 5 kids. Between the two of us, we had 9 kids between the ages, I think at the time, Mercy, I think 6 to 16 at the time. And what a joy. She mentioned a little bit earlier, there were 5 of us. No president has ever had more women on his senior staff than President Trump did. You won't hear that, but no president had more women in senior positions than President Trump. And between the 5 of us, it was Mercy, myself, Kellyanne Conway, Ivanka Trump, Sarah Sanders, and 1 or 2 others. We had 23 school-age children between the 5 of us. And so it was awesome. I hope I'm not stealing any of your thunder, Mercy. I apologize if you're going to talk about this. But it was awesome because we'd all come running in the morning. And, are we dealing today, is it Kim Jong-un? Or is it Vladimir Putin? Or is it crazy Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? And all of us were like, listen, we just got 23 kids to school. We can do anything. But Kim Jong-un, bring it on, buddy, because getting 4 kids out the door into school on time and getting to the West Wing for a senior staff meeting by 8:15 is a lot harder than dealing with North Korea, right? I mean, a lot harder. So it was such a joy and such a special time. And even now, when Sarah was elected governor of Arkansas, and she's crushing it in Arkansas, when she was elected governor, Mercy and Sarah and I are on a text string, and we're sort of bonded for life, and it's a joy to be with you, Mercy. So thanks for your continued work. I'm just going to take a tiny bit of time, and then I'm going to end with a story, which I often tend to do, about one of our founding fathers' wives, Abigail Adams, which I think is a little bit relevant. But first, let me say this. If you had told me, oh gosh, what are we, Mercy, 50? I'm probably a little bit older than you. But if you had told me 30... 21, yes, exactly. We're Abraham's slightly older sisters. No, Betty with us, by the way. But if you had told me all those years ago when I was growing up in tiny little Glen Rose, Texas, which I bet a lot of you have heard of because we're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but population 1,200, I had 29 people in my graduating class. When I went back for my 20th reunion, so at that point I'm 38, all of my best friends were grandmothers. I mean, this is sort of very small town, beautiful, rural Texas, but just the heart and soul of this country. But if you had told me, raised by a single mom, Glen Rose, went to Texas A&M on an agriculture scholarship, which is the whole reason I even got to go to college to study agriculture, which, by the way, that's a whole other round of fun stories. When I explained to my then boss, President Trump, that I was an agriculture major from Texas A&M and knew how to artificially inseminate cows, he was like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm like, no, I know, it's all a little crazy. Welcome to Texas, Mr. President. But if you had told me all those years back then when I was artificially inseminating cows that I would one day be in the West Wing of the White House with what I believe to be the most disruptive and transformational president of our lifetimes, I would have told you were crazy. But only in America, I believe, is this possible. And so really speaking to all the young ladies who are here tonight, the opportunity and the call, and it's biblically based. What God asks us to do is to find our calling and to find our joy, and how we take his concept of joy and purpose and love into the mission field every day. And for me to now look back on what has been about 30 years, maybe a little bit less, in the public policy arena, first as Rick Perry's policy director when he was first governor all those years ago, and then having the joy of really launching and building the Texas Public Policy Foundation, and Jacki was so sweet to talk about it. My heart, they were like my first child. I since had 4, but I really launched TPPF before I even had Luke, who's now a senior over in Fort Worth at Country Day and about to go to Texas A&M and be in the Corps of Cadets. But if you had told me all those years ago that this was the path, I would have never believed it. But the reason I want to explain that to you all, again, especially to the ladies here, that with God's hand on this work and with the purpose of finding your calling and realizing what good you can do in the world and how you can give back and what that looks like, while at the same time doing, for many of us, not all of us, but the most important job of all, which is being a mom and a wife, to be able to do all of that and to somehow end up in the West Wing explaining to President Trump what artificial insemination is, but also getting to work with people like Schlapp and Save America, which I do think is what happened under our administration. We proved the concepts and the policies of freedom and liberty and less government and self-governance and the greatest ideas of our founding fathers in the Constitution way back when, that we'd been proving it in Texas for a long time, but to have the opportunity to do it for America and then to take the next step and think through what happens next. This is what I'm talking about, the opportunity to find your joy and to find your calling and to figure out what you're passionate about. And again, looking back on those decades for me in public policy, but more importantly, perhaps looking forward and what we're building together with the incredible people at Bienvenidos, with the incredible people at CPAC, with a new organization called the America First Policy Institute, with now about 160 staffers, 22 policy centers, working in 21 states around the country, moving real policy forward, whether it's on education or healthcare or tax cuts or deregulation or the American worker, whatever it is, ensuring that what we all know to be true and righteous, what frankly is biblically based, that we never stop fighting, that we never give up, that we're always together in this battle, and at the end of the day, we will have saved a country in so doing. So I urge you, whether it is public policy, whether it is whatever your path is, find that calling, find your passion, find the joy in helping others and building something and being a part of something that is bigger than yourself. That's what we're all called to do. And when I see the country we have, there are days where I am discouraged. And when I see what is happening in Washington, D.C., when I see what they're doing to young children and the concept of basically mutilation and you get to choose if you're a boy or a girl, that's crazy. When I see a governing structure that has no value on life, I think, what is the message here, God? The message is this: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness has never been more important, and that we together in this room, whatever your calling looks like, but never giving up on this country and leaning in, we together can save it. And that's why I'm so encouraged and so excited and so grateful to be here with you, Abraham, and all of your friends. Let me close with one of my favorite stories, which frankly, I'm hopeful, unless you're a real smarty pants, which I'm not, and really studied your history in high school, which I did not, then you may know this story, but I'm wondering if maybe most of you do not. So on March 31st, 1776, that's a long time ago, Abigail Adams wrote a letter to her husband, John, then away with the Continental Congress as they deliberated their course to the momentous American Declaration of Independence just over 3 months later. The two were a rare couple for that time, a wife who knew she was every bit her husband's equal, and a husband who knew it as well and sought her counsel. So she felt free to give him advice on the formation of the new American government and our laws. She said, remember the ladies, and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. So keep in mind, she's writing this to him. That part is well known. A lot of you may know that. But what's less well known is what Abigail wrote next. If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion. When you read it on the page, it really stops you short. She actually used the words, foment a rebellion, she wrote. And what could she mean by this? She said, we will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation, she wrote. And I love every word of that. The American Revolution is replete with remarkable women like Abigail Adams who lived out that dawn of liberty. From Mercy Otis Warren to Phyllis Wheatley to Elizabeth Hutchinson Jackson and more. And here is one woman giving voice to the spirit of them all back then. They will not be ruled in the new dispensation as they were in the old, because they are Americans. It is impossible to imagine the American founding without thinking of these ladies, and it is impossible to imagine an America today without them. Their spirit is not the spirit, though, of a bygone era. A generation later, just a generation later, 1800s, early 1800s, Alexis de Tocqueville wrote on the unique quality of the American woman under American liberty. And he saw the very same fire that burned in the revolutionary generation. He said, "The American girl has scarcely ceased to be a child when she already thinks for herself, speaks with freedom, and acts on her own impulse. The great scene of the world is constantly open to her view. Far from seeking concealment, it is every day disclosed to her more completely, and she is taught to survey it with a firm and calm gaze. Thus, the vices and dangers of society are early revealed to her as she sees them clearly. She views them without illusions and braves them without fear, for she is full of reliance on her own strength, and her reliance seems to be shared by all who are about her." This was a not American writing about the American girl and American women in the 1830s. We recall these passages and why I bring them up today on the character of women in the American past, because I believe they illuminate something more profound that is so true in the American present, that there is something unique and different and special and vital about American women, young women with us tonight, and it is because of this amazing country. Every single one of you here walks in that proud tradition. Every one of you here, American women who have excelled and achieved in our great American arena as leaders, as thinkers, as workers, as entrepreneurs, as mothers, as sisters, as daughters, as visionaries, as everything that American women have always been and were meant to be. You stand in a great lineage. You are the inheritors and the continuers of a tradition of American women that stretches back to the dawn of the Republic, and you are worthy of that descent. It is important to have that context, I believe, to understand the fullness and the sweep of why we're here tonight. We're here to celebrate women in business, and you're going to hear from some amazing ones, thanks to the generosity of our friends and partners at Bienvenidos. And we must know, as I know Bienvenidos knows, that these roots run so deep. We are not celebrating something of the moment. We are certainly not celebrating a special interest. The American woman is bound so tightly to the idea of America that one does not exist without the other. That's why, as president and CEO of the America First Policy Institute, I tell you with absolute confidence that America first and women first, properly understood, are the exact same thing. That Bienvenido specifically focuses on Hispanic American women only accentuates the point. The Hispanic presence in the United States predates Abigail Adams by centuries. I know fellow Texans whose families came to this very state under Spanish banners nearly 300 years ago. The first great cattle drives in Texas involved their ancestors bringing to market the beef that would sustain the armies of Bernardo de Galvez as he rendered aid to the Continental Congress for which Abigail's husband served. What Bienvenido celebrates here is as deeply rooted in America as it gets, and that's why I am so proud to be a part of it. And every time Abraham calls, I say yes, which is a little unusual with 4 kids. I don't say yes to much. Thank you all so much for having me here with you, and what an honor to be here with all of you, and more honored by the work for America that continues. In that vein, I'd like to introduce, I've already mentioned her a little bit, but a great American woman, a leader, a thinker, a visionary, a mother, a wife, just one of the most beautiful people I've ever known, who is determined to foment a revolution of her own in the great Abigail Adams experience in all the best ways. Mercedes Schlapp, a prominent Latina national leader, a political media commentator, CPAC senior fellow, and my sister from a slightly different Mr. Mercedes Schlapp. Love you too. Love you too. Please help me welcome Mercedes, everyone.
It really is like a family reunion. It's the funniest. It's just fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, I'd love to bring, first of all, Abraham, I'm so glad we know that there's two genders. Seriously. I mean, the left, they've sabotaged woman. They've actually even changed the dictionary, in the dictionary, what a woman means. We all clearly know what a woman means. And really, can I just say I'm so inspired because there's so many young people here, so many young, wonderful, beautiful women who have joined us. So thank you for joining us here today. So I'd love to bring onto the stage our fabulous panelist. And I'm going to go ahead and sit here. And well, you've already heard from Jacki Deason, who is clearly just a superstar. Come on up. Let's go. And Jacki's going to be joining us. Claudia Mirza, who is CEO and co-founder of Akorbi group of companies. Very, very impressive. And the wonderful Ashley Cash, president and manager of CCC Capital Solutions. And also Governor Abbott appointed her as part of the Governor's Commission for Women, which I'm very excited to talk about. Ladies, thanks for joining me. So what's your definition of a woman, Jacki? Wait, do you have a mic? Or are we sharing the mic?
I think we're sharing.
Oh, we're going to share.
I hope we're sharing.
Okay. Oh, he's going.
Oh, okay.
What's wrong with the men here? Come on. Pull it together.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. Definition of a woman. You know what? No one had ever asked me that in my entire life, and I didn't expect anyone to ask until the Supreme Court hearing where the justice struggled with the question because she wasn't a biologist. Okay, so, well, all right. For me, it's very simple. Woman, she was born with certain reproductive organs that were XX, not XY. Thus ends the conversation. It's really that simple. There is no way around it. That's all it is. I am really concerned that we don't think that there's truth anymore, so we can just make it up. Even something as objectively simple as whether or not there are two sexes. If we cannot agree on that, what can we agree on? That is, and it destroys your family if you go the wrong direction, yet you are not permitted to disagree in public, else you have major problems. So it's really about an attack on truth. That's what this whole debate is about. That's where it's coming from. That is, and maybe secondarily, there's actually a population control element to it. If you can convince people from the time they're this tall that they have a choice of 40 different options of genders, guess what? They almost likely will not choose the traditional two, and therefore they will not be having normal relationships, getting married, having children, reproducing. If you can convince 20% of the population to not reproduce, the population tanks, and that is an agenda that a lot of people have. So I actually think maybe secondarily that's part of it too.
That's a very, very good insight. Claudia, as a successful businesswoman, you have, the Democrats, let me tell you something. They want you to be the victim, okay? They don't want to empower you. In fact, as Latinas, we're all supposed to be Democratic voters. Did you hear that? Yes. That's part of the agenda. But you really became a leader in your field. What was your inspiration? What were the lessons that you learned as you took on this role and built this business?
Well, the inspiration, Mercedes, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm humbled, and this is very important to me to be sharing my story with you. I want to say that the inspiration, basically, I come from a place where nobody gave us anything. We just left the country quietly, and we came here quietly, and we had to. We don't take free stuff. We have to work to be able to eat. And for us, or for myself, I wanted to be able to put the future in my own hands and be able to eat with my own hands and be able to generate income with my own hands, because I was really helpless. I could not really have certainty of the future by putting my life or my income on others. So that's my inspiration.
Oh, that's wonderful. Ashley, you're on the commission, Governor's Commission for Women. What does that mean? And I really want to hone in particularly on on the issue of human trafficking as well, and what's happening here in Texas.
Okay. Well, I was recently appointed to the Governor's Commission on Women, and it is the governor's priority, one of his priorities, to focus on women and children and to stop the human trafficking, to increase the number of women-owned businesses in the state of Texas, and then a third one of our marching orders is also to get more children adopted before they age out of the foster system so they're not homeless. And it really is the governor's priority. You know, there's over 3 million small businesses in the state of Texas, and about 1.25 million are women-owned, with Latinas heading that up as number one, which is really awesome. Yep. It's been the most growth area recently, and that's fabulous, you know, and I think, you know, we all recognize that Latinas are the largest growing population in the state of Texas, and we need everyone's help to make this state better. And so the human trafficking, that's a big task. That's a really huge task, especially with the border open right now. It's almost impossible to stop. But we are focusing on it from multiple facets, right? We're working with law enforcement. We're trying to work with private sector, and it is just, it's a terrible thing, and we've got to figure out how to stop it. Slowing it down is the number one thing, but stopping it would be the goal.
Well, but Jacki, we have a border czar. Her name is Kamala Harris, and come on, like, what are they doing? We know that what people don't realize is this lack of it's just an inhumane policy that they're implementing, or failing to implement, I would say, with like 30% of young women coming through the border and they're being sexually assaulted, and the drug cartel's in charge. I mean, when will this madness stop?
You know, one wonders if Ms. Harris even knows all of that and where the compassion is. I just don't understand how you could be a woman and not care about this, but she shows a complete lack of understanding and compassion. We all know that. While at the same time, you know, being more concerned about Ukraine's border than our own border. And if you don't have a border, you're not a country. You know, we had to give up on her and move on to Plan B. I really hope that the state of Texas will take this more seriously, because it seems as though, you know, when the federal government abdicates its responsibility, it can heighten the responsibility of the states. And there is the ability to form pacts with other states at times, especially for your own defense, because at this point, we have entire tracts and swaths of U.S. territory that Americans cannot even enter into because it's too daggone dangerous, and it's been that way for a long time. When I worked in Congress and I left in 2013 for a member in Arizona, at that time, it was national parks and the Tohono O'odham Reservation. You know, you had advisories from the U.S. government to not even enter because it was too dangerous. That goes way back. And so this problem started a long time ago. It goes through, you know, many sets of people who had the responsibility and somehow couldn't get it done. Let's hope that the U.S. Congress House side spending, which is now controlled by our party, will start getting serious about, if you're not going to fix problems, we're going to cut your budget and move the money over to people who will. I mean, that's one thing that we can do, even just controlling the House.
Let me ask you, I think one of the big issues that came up, Claudia, was the fact that it's the lack of capital, right? The lack of capital for Latina-owned businesses to be able to succeed. How can we fix that problem?
I think we need to fix, the way we can fix this problem is, number one, fixing the minds of our young girls, okay? I want for all of you to know that we are not here just to keep our head down working. We have been taught to just go get a job and work, not think. We don't need to become operators. We need to become wealth creators. Put your money to work. Even if you have $200, get those $200 to work. And I think that's a huge distinction. But whenever we understand how money is made, ladies, I am going to tell you, you will be able to elect better leaders. I am going to say that whenever I first came to the United States, my dad said, you need to be a Democrat. And I said, why? He said, because Democrats are the ones that are supporting the immigrants. I said, okay, I will become a Democrat. So everything, I went into voting and I selected everything. But I started paying attention, and I was extremely concerned that whenever we went to be able to hear, whenever we were going through the elections and going through that journey of selecting the next president, I was already a business owner, and I said, who is talking about small businesses? And I want for you to know that this economy, the United States, and the foundation, aside from families, are small businesses. And if you don't understand small businesses, you don't understand how Americans are funded, and politicians are able to fund their programs. You are able to fund with basic economics, people working in order to get paid taxes. And in order to pay taxes, you are able to empower the ones that cannot afford to live decently. So that is just my perspective.
Hey, Ashley, Bienvenido, they put out a poll. It said that most Hispanics, they believe that the economy is in bad shape. I think we all agree with that. And crime is getting worse. 56% of Hispanics believe country's going in the wrong direction. Obviously, we're seeing this banking crisis occurring. The Fed is looking to raise the rates. You own a real estate company. How does this impact? I mean, how do we survive through this inflationary period and through the fact that the economy is on the rocks?
Wow, that's a small question.
I know you can handle it. You could do it, Ashley.
How do we survive? I think we band together. I think, to your point,
Turn the mic on.
I think, to your point, right, you band together, right? You find people in your community that have money and you have a great idea and you partner together to start a company if you need to. But I think we definitely have to look to making sure that we elect the right people the next time around, correct? But we do have to put our noses to the grindstone and work, and we have to be talking to other people in our community about making sure they're electing the right people and making sure that they're voting along their morality and their ethics, right, and along their cultural guidelines, so that they're making sure that they're electing a conservative more than likely, right? Whereas you said you were told to vote Democrat, but that doesn't really align with your ethics or morals. And that's what we need to do, right? We need to talk. We need to tell everyone we know. Like, it's so scary right now in the United States to have a conversation about politics because you're afraid somebody's going to start screaming at you. But if we don't have those really difficult conversations, we're going to lose this country. And so I think we need to be making sure that we're getting the right people elected, but we also have to be working very hard, and we have to be pulling other people up, right? So if you know someone that has a great idea, that would be really good at something, encourage them to do it. Help them find the financing to do it. Be a partner with them in their business, right? Go to people that you know that have money and say, hey, I've got this friend, she has a fabulous idea. That's the way that it's angel funding, right? You found someone with a fabulous idea, you help them to get it done.
So Jacki, this obsession with the left and language, Latinx, I have to tell you, I can't stand that word. Latinos don't relate to Latinx. Right? Like, it's Latina or Latino. When I'm teaching Spanish to my young children, they're like, there's feminine and masculine. Why is the left so obsessed with this idea of just completely changing language?
Because language forms our thoughts. If you can control the language, you can control the thoughts. Look at how they hijack a word like equity. Equity should not be a controversial word. I mean, equity sounds a whole lot like equality. So, if you're a teenager, you find this very attractive and appealing, and it makes you feel good. But then you find out what equity really means to them. And usually the answer to every problem from the left side is more concentration of power out of your hands and into theirs somewhere in Washington in some basement in a bureaucracy you didn't elect. And certainly the redistribution of wealth. So extracting cash out of your pocket in the form of taxation and giving it to their favorite people who will keep them in power. Once you find out that all of their words and word changes are about disguising those dynamics, those two dynamics, everything is about packaging, everything is about PR. Even the indictments you're watching right now against the president. they know they can't really convict him. It doesn't matter. They're just checking boxes to get a PR program and headlines they want, because they know something like 60% of millennials admit to only reading headlines. They don't read articles, right? And so people just take the snapshots. It's all they have time for. Americans are busy living their lives and paying bills and raising kids and working a job. So if you can just disguise with language, you can get by with anything.
Let me ask you this on the education front, on the importance of how important is education as, young women are going out, making sure that they're able to have a successful career in business?
I mentor a lot of women, and I see that, number one, we waste a lot of time. It's not really waste. I think it's an investment, because we are teaching future generations. However, I feel that, it's not that I feel, we spend a lot of time teaching our children. So in the reproductive cycle, we are investing 5, 6, 10 years really busy with our children while trying to have a career. So I think it's very important for us to really work with our children with critical thinking, and not really for people to feed us whatever trash they want. I am going to give you an example about, I went to the White House. I was petrified. I told the team, I said, guys, let's expect a huge PR storm. President Trump invited us, small business, women business owners, to the White House. And this is very important to me, because I just want for you to feel how divided America is. After I went to the White House, and what happened was, all these women, they didn't ask us what kind of political party we belong to. We just went to the White House, to the Oval Office, to see President Trump. And what happened was, I went to see what was happening outside, and CNN was reporting that we were talking about business. And CNN and other media around the world were talking about Ivanka has ethical issues, and we were talking about business. And I had to spend the whole day talking to lawyers, trying to bring fake news down, because they were putting me in a bad light. And it says, Claudia Mirza, Ivanka Trump, ethical issues. I do a lot of work in highly compliant organizations. I cannot afford to be put in a bad light. So I had to spend the following 48 hours on my Harvard friends, my friends from Harvard. They said, Claudia, you are on the first, on the news, you are on the first page of these newspapers. So we went from Germany to Dubai, to India, and I was all over the world with Ivanka saying Ivanka has ethical issues. And by the way, Claudia Mirza is right next to her.
And you were probably dressed just as good as Ivanka, Claudia, don't worry. So just 2 quick pieces of advice for you fabulous young people. 1, get off of TikTok. TikTok is owned by the Chinese. They're evil, they're bad. Their goal is to basically manipulate the young people, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, you can have it all. Yes. You can be a fabulous mom, and I can tell you, being a mom of 5 girls, and have an incredible career. And the most important decision that you're gonna make in your life is who you marry, if that's what God wants from you. Not everyone gets married nowadays, but and that's okay. But that is the most important decision you make in your life. If you have a supportive spouse, it's life-changing. And that is what matters. And it's someone who supports you and knows that they can't be intimidated by a strong, opinionated, faithful woman, and always stay close to God. Those are the points as an old lady that I'm telling you right now that's going to make a difference. And 20 years from now, when we're all, maybe 30 years from now, where we're all in a home drinking champagne in a nursing home, you'll be like, I remember that Mercedes in that panel, and they said this, and you'll remember me. Sorry, I just had to add that, Ashley.
Can I add to her
Yes,
question?
yes, please.
Okay, so education. It is a hot topic for me. I feel like our education system in the United States is failing our young children. I know that we are working on legislation right now to give parents choice in Texas, which will be great. But I need people to know that there is so much free education in the world right now. If you are spending your time on social media or watching television or listening to anything other than conservative talk radio, you are wasting your time. You are living someone else's life, and you're not living your own. There are so many amazing things out there in the world that you can learn to do, and if you get on YouTube, if you go on websites, there are so many free classes. You can almost learn anything that you want to learn right now, unless it requires licensing, online. And so, like, we have actually, for the first time in the history of the world, removed a lot of the impediments of people learning new things because it's free. And so if there is something that you're interested in, get online and look it up. If you know someone in that industry, please ask them to mentor you. You would be amazed. There are probably at least 30 people in this room that if you said, hey, I would like to learn what you're doing, how can I help you do what you're doing and learn from you, that would probably say yes and give you that hand up. And please tell your friends, right? Tell them, hey, get off regular TV, get off TikTok, and spend your time educating yourself and improving your life and your family's life.
Amen. Yes. Yes. Wow. Yeah, and for old people like us, like if you work for old people like us, just like put the phone down, okay? Like look at someone in the eye and have a conversation. Don't always be like, oh, I texted my boss, and no, pick up the phone and call them, okay? And call your mother too, that's very important. Okay, Jacki, quick question here. So DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is something we're seeing happening throughout academic institutions. You're seeing this in corporate America. It's basically dominating a lot of these woke corporations in terms of their policies. How can a conservative woman survive this type of environment?
You know, it's tough for, a conservative woman doesn't have enough intersectionality, right? I mean, it's all about checking all these boxes, as I said earlier. And, I mean, this is going to be super tough. Obviously, I'm going to argue that each one of us has a sphere of influence. Probably your family is first, especially if you have children or parents. Surely you have one of the two. Please speak up. Because right now, the only reason the other side is winning is because we are too intimidated to speak.
Yes.
And it's always women who have the guts to speak, probably because they're so fiercely protective of their children, for example. I think the reason this has been permitted to happen is because on an individual level, we didn't speak up. And we do it partially because we don't think we have the power to change things. But that's just because there's a critical mass of people thinking that way. If they would flip that thought, you are most powerful with the people in your immediate sphere, and we've all got it. Everyone has this. Everyone has that power. You all have friends and family and coworkers. I think that you just have to stand up and not worry about the consequences. I know that's extremely difficult advice to take because people have mortgages to pay, careers to worry about, retirements to worry about. But that's all that's going to stop this, because the truth is, we're the majority. We are the huge majority. Wow. Most people are sane. Most people don't want to go along with this. Most people are not on board, and they would love to have the courage, if someone else would give it to them, to say, I'll do it with you. I'll stand up with you. But please, even if you're one person, you only live one time. Yeah. You know what? And you've only got one country to save one time. Yeah. And this is what your kids and grandkids are going to inherit, so now is the time. You don't want to be looking back 20 years from now saying, would it have made a difference? I could have done this or could have said that. There were 100 people interviewed who were 100 years old. They asked them, what is your biggest regret? 100% of them named something they did not do or did not say when they could have. They don't name things that they did do that were mistakes that they regretted, because you can fix your mistakes, but you can't go back and do things you didn't do.
And you know, pronouns are for grammar, okay? We don't put it on your Instagram. That's crazy world that the left is pushing us towards, okay? That one's another one there. What advice, Claudia, do you want to give these wonderful young women who have joined us today?
My advice to you, a couple of tips. Number one, study negotiation. Don't let people take advantage of you to manipulate you mentally. Second, understand finances. Basic mathematics. I am not good at math, but
I'm not either.
it's very hard for me because I am more of an artist, but I am gonna say, just understand basic mathematics. I believe that every single politician should run a small business in America. The day that small businesses in America are understood by politicians, we will have better leaders. The other thing is, don't believe everything that media is saying. Study facts, study numbers. I quit watching news for a very long time. I'm waiting for Orlando to open all his media because I'm really exhausted. I went to all these different channels around the world. Stop believing what people feed you. Be a critical thinker. The other thing is that our enemy is not in the United States, guys. Take it this is my deepest call to you. Our enemy is abroad.
Amen.
And they are destroying our country. Look, walk, or drive around the American headquarters in Frisco, Plano, empty headquarters. We need those jobs in America. We need taxes in America. We need people paying taxes so we are able to feed our communities. We need innovation. And another thing, look at the data, guys. 19% of our patents, we have declined to 19% of innovation. Whenever people give you unemployment numbers, understand the numbers. Don't eat it all. Understand what are the advanced degrees unemployment numbers, what are the people below high school or less unemployment numbers, and you will realize that the biggest gap in our country are related to innovation. We don't have innovation, and we need to invest back into our communities. I have a farm in Van Alstyne, like 50 miles away from here. It hurts me to see Americans, good, amazing people, guys, are sitting without a job, are dying for us to invest in their workforce, in their training, so we can have a vibrant, we need to invest in ourselves. Our enemy is outside. So critical thinking, negotiation, and don't let people manipulate you, have your own conclusions, and laws of finance. That's the core, but it's really basic. It's just adding and subtracting. It's as simple as that.
Very, very wise. Ashley, your advice.
I think my best piece of advice that I always say is to take action, right? You can sit around and you can hear things and you can keep looking for more information, but if you don't actually get out there and actually take action and do it, you're wasting your time. But I do agree with you, the education piece is the most important piece. Financial literacy, that's critical. I wish we had it in every single high school in the United States, but for sure in Texas. And trust the other women in your life, right? Lean on them. Look to your moms. I know that you think that we're old. I know my children think I'm stupid right now. There's probably not another person in your life that believes in you and wants the best for you than a mom, an older sister, an aunt, someone in your life that really cares about you. And they don't even have to be related to you, right? Like, it can just be somebody that really cares about you. But they're not going to lead you astray. They're going to tell you. I've been talking with my niece recently, and I'm like, please don't do that one thing. Please do these 5 other things, and I'm talking to her about education right now, and it's because we love you and we want the best for you. And I think that's wonderful.
Well, I've been giving you a lot of love advice, so we'll just skip me for now. But I do want to tell you a very funny story. So my 11-year-old, my back was out, and I was literally on my bed. I could not move, so I'm like, Lucia, I need you to go find me Advil. She couldn't find Advil. She couldn't find the Tylenol. She brings me a leave, and she's really serious. She's like, you can't take this. I was like, why can't I take this? She goes, it's made in China. And she goes, they're trying to poison us. And I was like, okay, fine. We're not taking the leave. But it's true. You were talking, Claudia, that like our pharmaceuticals, a majority of them coming from China. And we have to bring manufacturing, we have to bring production back to the U.S.
Please.
Made in America, by America. Jacki, your piece of advice, your wisdom.
Oh, to young women.
Yes.
Okay, I guess I would say, you know what, make your selection in people your first priority. You mentioned earlier who you marry is about the most important decision you can make. That's right. But also who you choose to go into business with. You know what, those are the two critically important relationships, I think, in life. And you will never pay a higher price than if you make the wrong decision in either of those. Look for integrity, please, and people who mean what they say and say what they mean. And if you see an ethical problem, please be quick to address it. You know, you get to choose your workplace often. Look for the team that you believe has integrity and a long track record. I used to think when I was in law school and I was studying ethics, like, oh, well, okay, maybe a few times in a career this would come up or that would come up. No, it comes up all the time. Ethics are an all-the-time thing. You will have challenges a lot. And how people address those and their ethics and their morals, whether or not they're a faith-based person, is going to have a huge determinant on how they approach problems. You will never find, I promise you, you can't accurately estimate the benefits of being with good people and the detriments of being with bad people. So take that so seriously. If you're hiring people, put in all the time on the front end. Go very slowly with that. Take your time getting to know them. Find out how to behave when their back is up against the wall. You know, not when times have been good, not when everything's going great, but how do they behave when there's pressure? And take the time to figure that out, because once you get them, it's very hard to get rid of them if it's the wrong person. Pick the right people.
That's great advice. And if you're stuck in a problem, pray and turn to God. And that is, I think, so true. And be careful who you trust. But that is, you know, those are just pieces of advice, I think, from these incredible panelists. Did you want to add something?
I wanted to add one more thing.
Like, you guys are so inspired. I feel like let's just.
I know, I'm like, oh,
I think we need to write a book. Okay.
Just like you said, the people that you do business with, but also the people that you're friends with, right?
Yes.
They say that you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around with the most, right? So if your friends are not people who are encouraging you and they're not telling you to be your best, if they're trying to bring you down, push those people out of your life and find some new friends, right? Find friends who have the same goals, the same morals, the same ethics as you, and surround yourself with those people and push each other up, build each other up, make each other better. So often, you know, you'll have this great idea and you'll say, hey, I want to start this business and it's going to be like this. And if you're not with the right people, they'll be like, should you really do that? I don't know. Like, and oftentimes it's because they're jealous, right? So you need to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that have the same ambitions and the same love of God and the same ethics and morals that you were raised with and want to achieve more in your life.
Okay, Claudia has one more thing to
I
add.
promise this is the last time. So one of the things is by mentoring women in the workplace, the biggest detriment to our women in the professional, aligned with what you got me started, Jacki, is the emotional intelligence. Guys, our job is to solve problems every single day. We see the worst all day long, problems. And as an executive or any aspiring professional, your job is to solve problems.
Yes.
You must isolate emotions. Emotions are nasty. It's good for poems to show your boyfriend how wonderful he is, but put that aside. At work, you think business, financials, and you stay cold-headed. And the problem is that we bring so many emotions that sometimes I say, my goodness, I wonder why these things were not taught at home. As us as employers, we have to be teaching these people like how to behave. So put emotions aside, and I promise you, your job is always going to be about solving problems for the remaining. It's about humanity, solving problems. But get used to it. Go to the rodeo. You see the cowboy. He's falling all the time. But you know what is the most amazing thing about the rodeo, guys? They get up.
Yes.
And they get up graciously. And they don't get hurt. And they know that they are going to fall from the ball. But how they fall, so it's falling, and we are going to be falling all the time. But creating that plasticity, guys, is what is going to keep us alive. Keep the emotions aside. They are your worst enemy. Only for letters to your boyfriends, husbands, and things like that. But for business, stay cold-headed. it's really nasty to bring those emotions at work because they don't get along, and that's the biggest detriment for us as women in business.
Okay, Ashley's had one more thing. I'm sorry, Abraham. I'm trying.
We're bouncing off each other now. I think
This is a marathon till tomorrow.
I think one of the biggest impediments to people starting something new is the fear of failure. And I want to tell you that I have learned the most in my life in the times that I have failed something. You actually don't ever fully fail until you quit. If you don't start or if you quit, those are really the only times you fail. Every other time is a learning opportunity. So don't be afraid of failure. Please just get out there and do it. Like, you can make some great things happen in your lives and for your community and for your families. And I want to see more of you out there doing it, because we women, we may have emotions that we need to leave at home, but that emotion also is a driving force in why we can make this United States a better country. Indeed. So
I'm a sucker for romances, but thank you all have been so great. Can we all thank these wonderful panelists, my sisters, Jacki, Claudia, and Ashley. Thank you all so much.
You guys don't go anywhere, because we have a good group of young women students from, I think, Southwestern. Raise your hand. Let's give a round of applause to these ladies. They could be anywhere on a Wednesday night, and they're here discussing women in business. It is so rare to get these four ladies to say yes to anything. And the fact that they're all here tonight, they do so important things that the fact that they're all here tonight together is incredible. So thank you and I feel like there's a women in business book coming, or a podcast coming here pretty soon that we're all going to be thrilled for. But listen, in conclusion, you turn on the media and you hear the left always talk about Hispanic issues, Hispanic issues, Hispanic issues. And I tune in because I'm Hispanic, I have issues, but they don't really go to the source, right? What the left has attacked the Hispanic outreach in is this crazy Latinx, Green New Deal policies that have absolutely nothing to do with what we want. We want things that help us create businesses, grow businesses, and start a family. And so the more we are in tune to what's righteous, the better leaders we have. So get out, get informed, and lead. So with that, thank you for being here. Thank you for spending your Wednesday night with us. And I want to just, seeing young women here gets me so excited, because it reminds me of a young woman who, as a freshman in college, was a single mom working 3 jobs, but she sought out mentorship at an event just like this and grew to be an incredible businesswoman, great woman of God, great family woman. That woman is my mom. So I'm thankful for her. Thankful for you all. Don't know if you want to say some words. And with her wrapping up afterwards, thank you for being here. Of all the ladies, the young students, if you can come up, I'd love for y'all to take a picture with this incredible panel. But Betty, will you please wrap us up?
Well, thank you all for coming. All of you that traveled from so far away just to come and spend some time with us, we want to thank every one of you for coming and just believing in this mission of just empowering the next generation. It's so important for us to be there and to help them. As Abraham said, I was one of those young kids, young girls that was sitting down in all these conferences wanting to learn. And I think the secret is not stopping, always looking and learning and learning and learning. You always want to be learning. I always learn something new every single day. But here, I call this group here, and Brooke left already, but I call them the BBC, Beauty, Brains, and Class right here. But above all, they are fearful women of God, and they believe in the Lord. Every day I hear one of them was telling me a while ago that she prays every single day so many times, and I know all of them are women of God, and they have committed their life to the Lord. And that's the most important thing, I think, for you. First, God, he says, first put the kingdom of God, and then everything else falls into place. He will bring the right people to support your dream, to support your career. He will be there. So I also want to call the board of Bienvenido. If you can come up here. These are the people that have helped Abraham and Bienvenido, Orlando, Ryan, and Doug Deason. If he better be here. Where is he? Mr. Deason and Abraham. Where's Abraham? Come over here. I want to thank them for supporting. They've been so supportive. Orlando just opened up actually Spanish channel. So if you want to support, please go to him. He has amazing projects. We need that. We only have Univision and Telemundo, and it's leftist. Everything you hear is leftist. I'll let him talk.
Since we're talking about women, I'm going to embarrass somebody, and maybe I'm talking way out of turn, but our wonderful friend Mercedes Schlapp has agreed to have a show on Voz Media on Mega TV. So me saying that this early means I'm going to have to pay her a lot more money. But we're grateful because we haven't really said much about her, but she is fluent in Spanish. Her parents from Cuba. I think her family is originally from Spain, but ella habla español perfectamente bien, así es que ella va a tener su programa en español y nos va a apoyar increíblemente bien y lo necesitamos en nuestro mercado que habla español. Gracias, Mercedes. Dígalo.
Bueno, gracias a todos por estar con nosotros y es un orgullo poder trabajar con Voz Media y trabajar con Bienvenidos. Gracias.
Mercy, we love you.